What is the definition of a fanatic? A person exhibiting excessive enthusiasm and intense, uncritical devotion towards some controversial matter, as in religion or politics. The original concept of being a fanatic probably dates back as far as Roman times, when two gladiators were fighting amongst a huge roaring mob of a crowd within the Colosseum, and maybe half the crowd was cheering for one gladiator and the other one was cheering for the most famous, the most successful, most violent gladiator. And that was the thing back then. Back then, that was their sporting event. That was their teams. They want to see a winner win. People love watching a winner win, and win big, and win fantastically. The idea of a fanatic dates way back to around that time. Fanatics want to feel that they belong when they watch a sporting event like that. Even though back then it was a fight to the death, a mob, a crowd, loves the sight of watching that winner win, because better than any drug that they can actually get their hands on, they feel a sense of euphoria when you watch a winner become the victor. When you watch an opponent become a victor, it is a wonderful sight to see. You cheer from the very last strike. When they become that victor, you're on your feet, you're cheering, you're clapping, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're having a whole lot of fun watching this opponent become the victor. And they love that, and they crave it. They crave it more and more. They want to see more and more times of this opponent winning. That is no different from our century of sporting events, such as football, baseball, basketball, boxing, what have you. No different from how it is right now. So when we fast forward towards the 21st century, being a fanatic nowadays is even more enticing, simply because we have the ability to now support our favorite person or team by purchasing their merchandise, which they absolutely love for us to do. They want us to spend every dime that we have to support said person or team. Which brings me to the point of today's video. Today we're going to be talking about the concept of being a fanboy or fangirl and the importance of exclusivity in the video gaming industry. Is it or is it not still important to support exclusivity? Let's get into this. I remember commercials back in the early 80s when in television would on screen show you comparisons of their games from the television versus their rival consoles. They're really talking about Atari and how our graphics look better, our sound sounds better, stuff like that. They would do that on camera, and that was kind of where it all first started. Console rivalry started at home on television commercials, and it really kind of started to segue us versus them. It paved the way for us versus them. And for a fanatic, that's really enticing. They love it. First of all, they think it's really funny. I thought so too. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly thought that console rivalry was funny as well. I was laughing at these commercials, especially when we get to Nintendo versus Sega. Sega was really, really dead on with their messaging in their commercials that our console is clearly better than an NES. And as soon as Super Nintendo came out, that's when things really caught on fire. Gamers were really picking sides then, right? They would choose, if you're not with Nintendo, you are clearly with the Genesis, and I can't be friends with you. I simply can't be friends with you. But if you love Nintendo and you own a Super Nintendo, then we can be buddies, all right? We could be fun. We could be friends, in the playground. We could be friends in the sandbox. But if you like the other and you don't like mine, we got a problem. Right? We have a problem. And, there have been some fights back then. Real fist fights. People would get real passionate. Kids would get really passionate about their video games. And you don't really see that in any other medium except for video games. I can't really think of another medium besides sports. Sports is probably the closest to fanboyism at this level. But nothing else. I can't think of really any music or movies or, I don't know, manufactured cars or any other type of medium that supports the level of fanboyism that goes on with video games. So we established what it is to be a fanatic and a fanboy. What goes hand in hand with being a fanboy is the concept of exclusivity, product exclusivity. Now, exclusivity outside of video gaming is not very, very well received or not very well perceived to be done. Cars, let's take for example, cars, clothes, music, movies at home, I guess. Food. I can't really think of why exclusivity would be as prominent in any other form of medium except for video games because of the support of hardware. Hardware exclusivity and software exclusivity seem to have been paramount back in the day when, well, that's all we had. There wasn't that many software developers. You could probably count them all on two hands instead of the hundreds and hundreds that we have nowadays. But back then, Nintendo was very cutthroat with their form of exclusivity, because whoever was making software for their machine, for the NES, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, back then, when they had a game come to their machine, and that developer would receive the seal of approval from Nintendo, that also would signify that your said game from this company, you are signing an agreement that this game cannot be produced or released on any other platform, including the PC. You definitely can't put this on the Sega Master System or the Sega Genesis. You are not allowed. This game is exclusive, probably forever. That's a little hazy. We're not entirely sure how long that exclusivity lasts, but it's not like those companies were re-releasing those titles on other consoles. They for the most part, they weren't. Some are the exception. But the majority of those developers had to sign a written contract with Nintendo. You cannot release any game that you put on the NES anywhere else. So that's where Sega had problems with software developers, because they were not allowed to release. If they released their game first on a Nintendo, they were not allowed to release it at all, in any way, shape, or form, on the Genesis. At least that's what the original concept of software release was all about. Exclusivity for Nintendo was very cutthroat. Very cutthroat. So they were lucky. Sega was lucky to get any kind of foothold through the door from third-party developers, until they started making their own fleet of home software themselves. That's where they were really honing their craft. But back then, yes, exclusivity, I wouldn't say it mattered, it just existed. It didn't really matter to us customers, because, we didn't really care about exclusivity. It was just, that was what was happening behind closed doors. This is how Nintendo ran their business once the NES became majorly successful around the world. Outside of Japan, when it hit America and no one knew what the NES was, and it finally hit the market, and we just We just got through a video game crash where nobody was buying video games anymore. The NES showed up, became a big splash that won summer or fall, and it became almost an overnight success. And Nintendo just went full steam ahead. We're going to release game after game, year after year, around the world, especially in the United States, and we're going to keep these games exclusive to us without anybody really knowing about it. Now, what I remember, my family owned the Mattel Intellivision, the original first generation of the Intellivision. We had a copy of Coleco. We had a copy of Donkey Kong, which is a Nintendo property. We had a copy of Donkey Kong that was originally constructed to work on the Coleco, but that cartridge would work on the Intellivision. So that game, I suspect that game should have been exclusive to Coleco, but it wasn't. It would actually work. The cartridge would work on the Intellivision, and we had no problems with that. There was no problems at all with this game working on Intellivision. Yes, it seemed weird, but we weren't thinking about that. All we saw was that it's a cartridge, and that it will literally physically fit inside the Intellivision, and we could turn it on and play it on Intellivision. When this cartridge was constructed to work supposedly exclusively on Coleco. So game sharing back then wasn't 100% frowned upon. I guess it was on a case-by-case basis too, and some games worked. It just simply worked. So fanboys really, really love the idea of exclusivity because they want to feel important. They want to feel they belong in a club. That's the whole concept of being a fanboy. You want to support the company that you adore, that you're willing to put all your time, effort, and money into, for them to keep producing software exclusive to their product, so I can keep feeling that sense of euphoria every game. And every game shows that a sense of craftsmanship that has been taken advantage of the hardware that I own, whether it's a Nintendo, whether it's a Genesis, whether it's the PlayStation or the GameCube, whatever have you. We want to have exclusive titles for our machine because we want to feel like we belong. I feel exclusivity was the invisible enemy of the industry for a long time. And a customer can be a casual gamer, or a customer can be a fanatic gamer, a fanboy or fangirl. That fanboy will purchase any and everything from that company no matter what. Whether good or bad, they'll buy it. For the most part, they will. As long as it's well advertised to them, they will buy it. A casual will only buy what's visually in front of them. Right? So exclusivity, no matter if it's exclusive or not, the product won't sell unless it's right in your face. Now, the fact that if it is exclusive makes it better just for the company because, all right, we have margins we have to keep. Sell the hardware and sell the software. They go hand in hand. When you buy video gaming hardware, it's expected for you to buy the software, right? That's just how it is. They don't want you just buying the hardware and that's it. Most households nowadays, I think nowadays, are probably at the majority of people will own 2 video gaming consoles in their home. If they're a gamer, they'll own 2. They'll own their primary console and then they'll own their secondary console, including the PC. And the PC can be associated as your primary source of gaming. It absolutely can. But if we're just going to focus on just console gaming, We like exclusives because we want to feel important. And for some people, it can go a little deeper, because some people feel if a game is exclusive to one said platform, then the developers can devote all their time and effort, make it look as pretty as possible, and make it run efficient as possible, as opposed to having to support multiple platforms, which would equal a bigger team, more time, more money, and the game would take longer to produce and finish. But if you're working on an exclusive title for one piece of hardware, well, that is at the heart of exclusivity. The sense of, I can play it and you can't. You can't play it because you're not cool enough to get it, or you're too broke to get it. I hate to say that, but that's part of fanboyism too. If you don't own this console that I own, you're a fool, and I don't like you. At least I don't like you right now. I want you over here because I want my sense of community bigger. And you shouldn't like what you're playing. You should like what I'm playing. That's how it is to us, the customers. The companies, they don't care. They don't care about our fanboyism. They think it's stupid. But at the same time, they will not hesitate to take advantage of the situation by creating exclusive titles just to feed our egos. They'll do that. They have done that, especially Sony. Sony will definitely do that. They're holding on to the idea of exclusivity for as long as they can, because that's their bread and butter. Or at least it was their bread and butter. It's not so much now, because the cost of games are going up for them generation after generation. Regardless of them selling over 100 million consoles, that's nice and all. That's great. That's a great measurement of success if you can sell over 100 million consoles per generation. That's how we perceive as successful. That we're visually seeing you sell this many consoles. Yes, the software, on the other hand, has to match the one-to-one with the console sales, and they haven't. That is all slowed down now. Third parties is what sell consoles now, unfortunately. For those that want to believe that exclusives sell consoles, it's a small slice from the overall pie. The rest is free-to-play games and third-party games that's selling on multiple SKUs. That's what's selling consoles. You have your Maddens. You definitely have your Call of Duties. You have your FIFAs every year. It's annual games is what sell consoles. That's what's really doing it nowadays. Annual games. So the fact that those annual games are multi-platform, just about every single one of them is a multi-platform. In fact, yeah, all of them are multi-platform. All of those annual games are multi-platform games. I can't think of one exclusive title that releases year after year after year. Exclusive? Tell me one. What exclusive title releases exclusively on this one console every single year? Because you can't say it's MLB The Show anymore. That ain't exclusive no more. I know that some people might say, oh yeah, it's MLB. No, it's not no more. MLB, The Show. Don't you dare say that game is exclusive anymore, because it ain't. So yeah, every game that releases every year, annually every year, is a multi-platform third-party game. The majority of them are. And that's what sells consoles now. Exclusives are just the cherry on top, guys. That's all they are. Exclusives is not really good for us. They never really have been, and they definitely aren't now. With the cost of game development rising every quarter, every year, those exclusives are getting more and more expensive to make, and they're not taking shorter times to make. They're taking longer. But Sony, yeah, their games are in the hundreds of millions of dollars to make per title. Hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Spider-Man, I don't want to get fully into what it costs to make these games. But the majority of their games now all cross over $100 million to make. But they probably really should rethink about their software releases going forward, because Ghost of Yote, Spider-Man 3 when it actually comes out, Wolverine, and whatever other first-party AAA games that they're going to produce, and they're all over $100 million. When they release, minimum they're going to have to be 10 million sold. That is like the minimum now. You can't sell below. If your game's going to cost over $100 million, you cannot sell below 10 million copies. Now, some of their games was not licensed properties and not over $100 million budgets, like Astrobot. Sure, that game probably only cost them maybe somewhere around, hopefully below $60 million. It's got to be over 30, but I would hope it's below $60 million to make that game, to produce that game. And last count that we've heard about Astrobot, that had only sold 1.5 million for a game of the year. You are game of the year, Astrobot, game of the year for 2024, and you only sold $1.5 million, $1.5 million, just $1.5 million for over how many consoles the PlayStation 5 has? Was it 65 to 70 million PlayStation 5 consoles, and only 1.5 million people bought Astrobot? There's something seriously wrong. And that game is exclusive, yes, but there's something seriously wrong with those measurements. How is that game not at least 5 million sold? Minimum, at least 5 million. That game should be well into the 15, 6, 20 million copies sold easily within 30 days. Within its 30-day release, it should have easily cracked 10 million, between 10 and 20 million copies sold for a platformer game. Now, if that was a licensed game like Spider-Man, my God, and only 1.5 million, I blame it to advertising. I seriously do. I've spoken amongst my circle of friends multiple times about the importance of in-your-face advertising. I'm going to stress that. In-your-face advertising. In recent years, I've noticed a lot of modern-day fanboys mocking and pointing fingers and laughing at Xbox and Microsoft as a whole. They feel that they've lost their sense of purpose in the console gaming space because they no longer appear to really value the sense of keeping an IP exclusive. I do want to talk a little bit more about that. Exclusivity, especially when it comes to Xbox, seems to be a huge question mark. They are trying to evolve the video game industry as a whole. They don't want to stay stagnant as it was for decades and decades before. They've tried this model before and didn't exactly work out for them, except for one time, and that was with the Xbox 360. But those games weren't their own internal games. That was not their internal properties. The majority of those games, outside of Halo, Gears, and Forza, well, back then it was Project Gotham Racing. But besides those select few titles, the majority of their library were third-party games that just happened to be exclusive on the 360. They were coasting through the entire generation with third-party exclusives. But here we are in 2024. Times have changed. Generations have shaped in new directions. We have a new leader. We have a new current leader of the gaming industry again. Fanboys from both camps of said Microsoft and Sony really like to see what kind of competitor the Xbox could be with this many studios. I mean, even I'm a little curious about that. I'm very curious to see how far they could go as far as exclusivity. But for the health of the industry, which they're kind of now wholly responsible for, because they own this many publishers under their umbrella, it is best to see the industry thrive as a whole and come in later for the kill if that's really what they plan to do, if it's really what they desire to do, but much, much later. You want to get as big and as broad as you can to pull in as many customers as you can before you go and pull the ultimate trigger. But, you know, people want to see results now. They're thinking, Microsoft always thinks 10, 15, 20 years ahead of time instead of thinking of the here and now. We are all stuck in the here and now as customers, and we want these companies to focus on us because we are your current customers. Your future customers, they're either not born yet or they were never here. That's the problem they're always currently facing by being this future forward. We've seen this before with the Xbox One when they included the camera to connect. No one wanted to deal with a camera that had eavesdropping microphones that could possibly listen to every conversation that you're saying in front of it, recording that information and feeding it back to Microsoft through Xbox Live. No one wanted to deal with that. But here we are nowadays when the majority of all households have some type of digital assistant, such as Siri and Alexa. That's commonplace now, at least through phones and not video game consoles, but that was an idea that was brought upon and introduced back in 2013, right? And now here it is in our homes and no one bats an eye about it. No one's really worried about it. That's the type of business practices that Microsoft likes to do, forward thinking. But, you know, if you really wanted Microsoft to be this way, be the cutthroat publisher that they could be, I don't think you want to see that side of Microsoft because they would go extremely hard. They have the potential to go really petty hard, harder than Sony because they do have the money to do it. And they do have Sony's attitude to do it, but better than that, they have the money to outspend Sony. You guys want to see a cutthroat Xbox and cutthroat Microsoft against Sony and Nintendo, right? I guarantee you, you definitely don't want to see that. The amount of power and influence they have right now, hidden within their own ranks, to influence this industry is something you don't want to see. You feel Sony runs everything? Well, let me paint you a little picture of what could happen and currently is happening in an alternate universe. So hold on tight, listen to this, because this is absolutely happening in an alternate universe and you will not like it. So hold on tight, here we go. Microsoft is literally attacking Sony and Nintendo on exclusivity at a level that they definitely can't match. They definitely can't match. So let's just rewind the clock back 2017. Satya Nadella, he goes into Phil Spencer's office and he demands, okay, here's what's going to happen. I care about exclusivity, yes, but we're going to go real hard now. So we're going to still introduce Game Pass as you planned, yes, but I really want the world to know who we are. So here's what's going to happen, Phil. Every game that you just recently released on PC that was an Xbox port, that is Sea of Thieves, that is Quantum Break, those two games, and the upcoming State of Decay 2, those games for PC, they're now going to be removed from the store, from the Microsoft store. They're no longer going to be supported on PC. We have another plan for PC gaming that we're going to put into effect, and I'll explain that to you later, Phil. But every game that you just put on the PC, you're going to now remove it. And for those that had already bought it, that's fine. Well, sadly for them, you're going to order the teams to patch the games for the PC to be bricked. And when you do that, you're also going to put up a label on screen that says the following: effective immediately, this game is no longer supported on Windows PC. If you would like to play said game, you are now required to log in and purchase said game from the Xbox Game Store for the support for the Xbox. Please click this following link. Thank you for your support, and thank you for enjoying Xbox. Right? That's priority number one. That's initiative number one. But this is just him waking up in the morning. This is not even him getting started. So initiative number two would be Minecraft. That game is no longer working on the PC now either. Okay, we own Mojang, and this game is now going to be console only. We are removing all support from that game on PlayStation and the Switch. No longer supporting there. The only exception is on your phone, but that is it. That's it. You can only play the game on your phone somehow. But as far as existing players and customers, I'm sorry, if you want to play Minecraft now, it is only going to be on the Xbox. So the same applies. They will redirect you to a link to the Xbox store where you must buy the game on an Xbox if you want to continue playing. That's initiative number two. Initiative number three. They would take, and this is before they purchase Bethesda, and way before they purchase Activision. They will take roughly about 35, maybe $40 billion. They're going to take that money and they're going to go to all major television networks. They're going to start in America, by the way, North America. They're going to go to all major network stations, and that includes ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CW, and hell, maybe even PBS. They're going to go to each one of those networks, and they're going to go to their executives, and they're going to say, we're going to buy enough stock into each company. We're going to buy just enough stock for each company for us to have the perk and the ability to advertise Microsoft and Xbox on your television networks every single night for the foreseeable future for free. They will own enough shares in each television network station where they can actually advertise anything they want during prime time hours, between the hours of 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night, every single night, 7 days a week. That is in your face advertising that won't be missed. So every commercial break on all of those major networks, they will have a 15-second or a 30-second spot to advertise anything they want, including Xbox, all night long, every single night, for free. And that's probably one of the most crucial hours of the day when you can get the most viewers. You can get the most eyes and views on a product within 15 or 30 seconds every single commercial break. Every single commercial break. Doesn't matter if you can fast forward it through a DVR. The fact that it's there and someone's going to see them, because commercials still exist. So somebody will still see these commercials night after night. And that is the best word of mouth. If it's in your face and you really can't forget about it, you guarantee you no one would ever forget the name Xbox if they did that. Yeah, they will have top influence every single night for 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That would be killer. That's something, and they have the money to do that. Sony can't do that. Nintendo definitely won't be doing that, but Microsoft could. Microsoft can, Apple can, and so could Google. That's what he's doing over there. That's initiative number 3. Initiative number 4. Third parties. The third parties will now have an obligation to, let's just say, Sony goes to any of these third parties to cut any kind of exclusivity deal with them. Those said third parties have an obligation to tell Microsoft that before we signed this contract, Sony came to us in regards to they want exclusivity on said game. And Microsoft will simply say, okay, all right, thanks for letting us know. That game is now ours now. Okay, we're gonna buy the IP, and the IP is now ours. Thanks for telling us. You tell Sony to go kick rocks. Whatever, anytime they come to you for an exclusivity, timed exclusivity or permanent exclusivity, you're gonna tell us, and then we're gonna buy the IP. Either you guys can continue working on it as you wish, because you're the brainstorm behind the IP, or we'll just buy the IP and we'll find our own developer. Either way, the IP is now going to be ours. You tell Sony to go kick rocks. That would really do them in. That would mean they would buy out every single exclusive that Sony ever goes for from a third party. No more exclusives for Sony through third party. They would go to all of them. Every last one of them. That's the kind of Microsoft you don't want to see. I guarantee you that's happening in another universe, and that is probably pissing off a lot of Sony fanboys. And as I mentioned before, as far as PC, I'm going to touch back on that. PC, yeah. So they've decided that they're going to continue purchasing small studios on top of publishers, but the small studios, and we're going to make them PC only developers. That's right. They're going to have exclusives for PC that never touched the light of day on console, and vice versa. And everything else from the Xbox Gaming Studio, repertoire, those studios stay on console, and future developers that they buy remain and stay on PC. Therefore, they have two sets of exclusivities, and never should the twins shall meet. PC stays PC, console stays console, permanently. And these games never hit another platform. They will never see Sony, they will never see Nintendo. They will stay exclusive permanently. That is a scenario that could happen here. But let's hope and pray that that never does. I have a preference on who I like to play the most. But I do appreciate everybody, because this is the gaming industry. The gaming industry should be for everyone. Gaming should be for everybody. It shouldn't just be locked down to a specific platform. Exclusivity overall really is a bad idea for the consumer, even though fanboys like it. For the sake of everyone, exclusivity is technically a problem that probably should go away, but it won't. It won't go away for the simple fact that what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. That's just how it is. But nothing, unless, please someone tell me, someone comment in my comment section, if exclusivity is prominent in any other field of study or field of product like it is in the video gaming industry, please let me know, because it seems that exclusivity only seems to benefit and thrive, well, to a degree. It only seems to be acceptable. Only seems to be acceptable in the video gaming industry, but nowhere else. If I was buying a DVD or a Blu-ray that can only be played on a JVC Blu-ray player or DVD player, why would I buy that DVD? Why would I buy that movie if it can only be played on that one particular manufacturer's product? Why would I do that? If a song can only be listened through a specific set of speakers, that ain't good. If I can only eat a specific plate of food on with this one fork and no other, and I can't use my hands, why would I subject myself to that? Exclusivity only helps the publisher and not the customer. Us as the customers, we should not value exclusivity unless it's a relationship, unless it's a one-on-one relationship. And it goes the same for fanboys. It doesn't pay to be a fanboy anymore. It never actually really does pay to be a fanboy. The only time I will accept any form of fanboyism is if you work for the company. If you are an employee of that company and you want to be a fanboy because they pay you well to fanboy for them, then okay, acceptable. I give you props for making that kind of money for being an employee for that company. Therefore, you're entitled to be a fanboy if you work for them. But if you don't work for them and you just feeding them money for the sake of feeding them money, and you only get back a product here and there and hope that that product is good, you hope that it is, then yeah, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's a type of fan that you should not be. And in the end, hey, I've been a fanboy before, and it only hurts you in the end. It only hurts you in the end. So, fanboyism and exclusivity, they go hand in hand, but maybe it's a concept that should be abolished. Maybe it should be forgotten. With that being said, I'm Musical Weapon. Come back again. We'll do this again. And Happy New Year.